This episode of Getting to the Truth in This Art is brought to you by Charmington Holistics. If you're like me, you realize that now more than ever, it's important to have your wellness in check. That's where Charmington Holistics tonics come in hand. Charmington Holistics tonics contain a combination of nutrient-packed superfoods with herbal support and are meant to be enjoyed daily. These tonics are good and good for you. They can be enjoyed in a variety of beverages from coffee to cocktails. My favorite is Tummy, which contains turmeric and tastes just like root beer. These tonics are a wonderful way to add extra herbal support and nutrition into your diet. Head on over to the Best Little Herb Shop's Instagram today at Charmington Holistics. Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today's guest is the co-founder of Mount Royal Soaps, Pat Illes. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
So, as we were talking a little bit before we got started, I'd like to give like the quick "my hair's on fire" intro. And, not that it intimidates or scares anyone. You'd be surprised some of the people I've had on here. It's like, this is unnerving. So describe your company, describe Mount Royal Soaps. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So Mount Royal Soaps is a personal care product line business that was started by me and my now wife and our best friend in 2014. It started as a small hobby soap making thing on the weekends. And it grew to us opening a storefront here in Baltimore a couple of years ago, adding more products. And now we have a production facility as well here in the city.
Okay. We, at my girlfriend's house, there is always some Mount Royal soap floating around. It's in the bathroom, going in there, picking up, I think it's like the big jugs. And then she does the refills of that. And she was like, yeah, so what do you think about that soap? I was like, did they get to you? Are you pitching for? So talk about that process of making soap. I've excuse my lack of knowledge, but I've never talked to someone who's in the soap business. So this is, I'm a nerd when it comes to that, but it's interesting. So what is unique about your soap? I always hear about a fat thing, something I used to hear about whale blubber or something like that. What is special about your soap, and what is the process? What is it made out of? So
we use natural vegetable oils. What's unique about our formula is that we don't use palm oil or any animal fats. Okay. I don't know if you're aware, lots of people, it's become more prevalent nowadays. People know about the stuff going on in Southeast Asia. As far as palm oil farming, is very destructive for the environment. And palm oil is in a lot of personal care products, soaps, everything really. I mean, it's hard to avoid it, but we never really thought we would change the world by offering, our farmers market soaps. But we kind of wanted to raise a little bit of awareness about the destruction with palm oil, but also offer something that people who are vegetarian could also use.
I dig it. Mm-hmm. So should I get rid of my Irish Spring soap? Is what you're saying?
It's up to you if it works for you. We just wanted to present an option and maybe raise some awareness about it.
Well, that's a good thing. You touched on that you've been in the biz, as working with your now wife and one of your friends since, for the last now 70 years. Mm-hmm. So how did you get your start? What was the thinking of, what? I know all these people are doing beer. I know people that are doing this. I'm going to do soap. So what was the thinking that went into that?
It's funny you should mention people making, a lot of people making beer. But we kind of, me, my wife, and our best friend, we got started doing it when we were all in early recovery from drug and alcohol addiction and some mental health stuff going on. But that's how we started. We just needed something to focus on an outlet, a creative outlet. And we were all kind of getting together in our kitchens and trying new crafts and stuff like that. And this is the one thing that we really like to do. People really liked the soap that we were making.
Yeah.
Like our families, maybe they were just being a little, over supportive and trying
I dig it.
into something. But yeah, we did it because we couldn't make beer because we were so.
So, I went through like the offerings that are listed there, and I've noticed a fair share of kind of punny names like Shaving Grace and an SNL reference or two in there, like David S. Pumpkins. Within your product offering, it appears you have a good sense of humor. Who are some of your favorite comedians?
Oh, wow.
See, it's not going to be purely about, hey, man, what's the number of suds in each bottle? It's going to be some of the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah. I mean, man, I haven't watched stand-up in a while. I used to watch a lot of it.
Okay.
Comedians, I guess, let's broaden that to, you know what? I don't even know. I don't even like watching funny movies anymore. I feel like my wife and is funnier. Like, I don't know if that's a common experience, but favorite comedian, for some reason, Richard Pryor comes to mind. I don't know why. I used to really like his stuff when I was.
That's a really good choice. That's a really top tier S level choice. So yeah, can't go wrong with that one. A lot of good humor. That even going back and listening to some of his because I listen to a lot of stand up comedy and old records and things like that, and I'll go through Spotify, and it'll be stuff that was in like super old records that still was kind of out there today. I'm like, nothing's changed in the last 40 years. Isn't that something?
I should go back and listen again. And sometimes you go back and listen to the stuff you used to think is funny, and it just doesn't fly anymore.
Well, that's the thing. As I always joke, I'm just waiting to get canceled, I suppose. So made in Baltimore. So I kind of saw some connection there. Speak on that a little bit. What was the relationship there with Made in Baltimore?
You talk about the Made in Baltimore program.
Yes.
Yeah, they're awesome. I guess they're an advocate for small crafters, of which there are a lot in Baltimore. Like, we have a great maker scene. I don't know what it is. It's just there's a kind of do-it-yourself streak that runs here, from everywhere from music production to art to furniture making. There's so many furniture makers here in the city, and other soap makers too. But the Made in Baltimore program is this. I think it's under the BDC umbrella right now, but they're just a great advocate, a great resource, and a great networking resource for makers in the city.
And so you guys worked with them at one point, or was it just you they were advocates for you, or what was that kind of relationship?
We've been in their store. Our products have been in the store. The Made in Baltimore program, actually, they've been a big help this past year. I think we ended up on a couple of their billboards around town. And then I don't know when you'll air this, but this is during the pandemic. We were making a lot of hand sanitizer and having trouble filling bottles, and because we didn't have the proper equipment. And Made in Baltimore put together a grant program for small makers in the city who were making PPE that was short supply. And we were awarded a grant from them to purchase a bottle filling machine that, I'd have to look at the numbers, but by tenfold increased our output of hand sanitizer and soap. Wow. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're great help. Well, we love those guys.
That's great. I've been in there and I've purchased a few different things before all of this stuff went down. I feel like I have 2 or 3 beard products that are just sitting in my bathroom that I use, and it's like almost out of that. Need to get a refill soon. So you kind of touched on it. One of the reasons I thought it was kind of prudent to reach out is COVID, hand sanitizer. You're already kind of backdoored into it. I feel like you already had the questions maybe. How has it been like essentially being in this space of almost being an essential business, like during the last 9 to 10 months? I know you said business is booming, but how has that been from maybe where you were at before we realized this was a real thing to where you're at now, or where you're at during the peak of like needing like to produce more hand sanitizer?
Yeah, it's been wild. I remember actually just thinking about this the other day. We're about 10 months out from the first case that showed up in the US now. And I remember, I mean, I formulate stuff. We have a collection of different recipes that we've come up with, and a ton of different ingredients in our library. And I saw back in last March a shortage. Somebody was selling hand sanitizer for like $100 on Amazon. So I had a formula for hand sanitizer gel that I'd worked on in the past just because I had fun. And I had some perfumer's alcohol, and I had all the ingredients to do it. And I made a little batch, put it up on Instagram, like, hey, any of the neighbors of the shop need some, here's some, come get some. It doesn't cost $100. So that was like, our first batch was 13 total units of like 2-ounce hand sanitizer. And then the next thing I knew, we were getting calls from the city DPW, postmasters from around the state. There was a couple hospitals. They were all asking us to make as much as we could. And we were just working out of a little 20-quart stock pot at that point.
Wow.
But yeah, that was crazy. We definitely, we have friends who have a meadery here in town, Charm City Mead Works.
Yeah.
And we were able to reach out to them and start making huge amounts of sanitizer over there in their big mead tanks. Cause mead, they work with honey. Honey is like, really thick, like sanitizer. So they have the right equipment to pump it and mix it and all that. So we just gave them the formula and they started making a ton of it. It's been really weird. It's very weird. I remember thinking about how terrifying it was that the city DPW was coming after us for hand sanitizer. I was like thinking they take care of like our water supply. Like what if some guy has cholera? And like, it was just from the beginning, it was driven by like a fear, I think, of if this stuff is needed, we need to make it as much as possible.
Yeah, I totally remember like just going into the stores, and I was one of those, like I outside of this, I work around public health, like in that kind of capacity. And I just didn't see anyone really taking anything serious, and just things like, you'll have the hand sanitizer like pumps near the common areas. Things were empty. I was like, no one cares. And then you would read about this stuff because this is the industry we're working in. And it's like, this is what we're covering. This should be filled. We should have stuff here. And then going to check at different stores, markets, pharmacies, things like that. No alcohol, nothing. Mm-hmm. And just stuff just being missed. And I remember at one point, even like late in the summer, like I want to say August, I went down to Sakri Sucre, who was a guest on this podcast a while back, Emmanuel there. And I was like, oh, you guys have like currency here. It was like 2 like containers of Purell. And I was like, you can't find it anywhere. You should flip that. It'll, it's like a PPP loan or something. So let's see, relationship with Baltimore. Are you from here? What's that story been about?
I'm originally from New Jersey, from a town called Asbury Park on the shore in Jersey. And I moved here actually, like I mentioned earlier, getting sober when I was like 21. Just needed a new place to kind of start over. where I wasn't around people that I grew up around. And I don't know, I feel like maybe there's a lot of people that end up leaving Baltimore for that reason, but this is where I ended up, and just fresh set of faces, and I love it here. I don't think I'll ever leave. It's just was the place of a rebirth, so.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. I don't know much about Asbury Park other than a wrestler named Bam Bam Bigelow is billed from there. Mm-hmm. That's all I know, just flaming hair, black and fire leotard. That's about it. Moonsaults.
Yes.
Flaming bald head rather.
It's funny. Most people mention Bruce Springsteen, but yeah, Bam Bam Bigelow was the true hero of Asbury Park.
See, that shows you where I'm at,
You're a child of the 90s, I can tell.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts about operating a business in Baltimore, what have you? Obviously, right now, there's over the last kind of few months, especially in Baltimore, it's been this back and forth as to can places, specifically restaurants, but can places be open and to what capacity can they be open? Has that changed the way you view being a business owner here? Or what are your thoughts and impressions on being a business owner, normally speaking, and maybe with how things have gone over the last year?
I mean, I feel very fortunate that we are not restaurant owners. I feel so strongly for all the restaurant owners in this, in the city. It's got to be tough. There's no help. But I think that our current administration, actually, I don't know if this is a political podcast or anything, but I mean, if they absolutely did the right thing as far as shutting down.
I agree.
Yeah, and I understand people getting upset, but I think that's the wrong person to get upset at. See, now I'm going to get myself in trouble because I can't help getting political.
No. Because I'll chime in on that. I think it was one of those things where if you're going to do it, don't put it on a new guy. Is the way that I kind of looked at it. And I've seen different places, they get on, different restaurants, different owners, they'll get on. And I'm friends with a lot of people in that industry. Yeah. And, I feel for them and all of that. And I support in whichever way I can. My scale says I'm supporting. So that's what we're doing. But I'll say that, I've seen some places that they want to pile on because it's the thing to do, right? And there's a few restaurants that have, a few owners that have multiple locations. And it's I have to send all of my patrons to my location in Baltimore County. And it's isn't that crappy that you have multiple businesses and you have to send them to a different part of the state? Seeing different restaurant owners get on and, have their 2 cents, but then own multiple restaurants, own restaurants that are in the county and in the city, and just wanting you to kind of empathize with them. It's you own 3 restaurants, you have an option, but for the places that are kind of right there on that border, I really feel for them. It's you were almost, not even in the capacity that it's a public health situation, but, from the standpoint of you want to make money, because we're all programmed for that, for the most part in this country, I think that you feel for them in that regard. And it's if there was some type of bailout, some type of support, we wouldn't be in this situation to the way it is. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Again, I feel very fortunate that our storefront, we closed. We've been closed through most of this pandemic to the public. We just felt that was the right thing to do for the safety of our staff. And I feel very fortunate that we have other sources of revenue that are sustaining us, and that we don't need to keep a physical location open other than for pickups of online orders, Mm-hmm. But that being said, the fact that we do feel very fortunate to have those other sources, I am proud of Baltimore for doing what it's doing right now, which is taking the lead on what needs to be done as far as, addressing this thing that is the biggest thing that we will ever ever go through, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Like the biggest crisis that any of us will ever go through. And we got to be brave about it, you know?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, if they can come up with something, because this is we're told this is a fruitful country, bail these places out, because I think it's a big part of what makes the culture here. It makes up what the fabric of what things are from multiple businesses and friends that I have. Their places have shut down like permanently, and you feel for them. And, you know, but at the same time, priority is, are people safe? And that's what you're looking for. And the other thing is, can you pivot? You know, there are places that are doing really cool stuff. It's like sometimes getting past what ego may be there. And it's like, oh, well, this is the type of business I have. Well, we don't run into pandemics regularly. So can you pivot? Can you adjust to meet your customers in a different way and still be able to keep the lights on? Mm-hmm. And I think that's been the quandary people have been in for the last better part of a year. So this is the last question that I have, and then I'll give you a chance to shamelessly plug anything, online stuff, social media, all of that good stuff. This is the one I had to update when we first started talking. Okay. So what is the better autobiography name? Pat Illis before the Suds, Royalty and Soap, the Pat Illis story, or the Illis Soap Around? What is the best autobiography title of those three?
Well, first of all, nobody's going to want to read any of those books if it's about me. But I like, what was the last one? The Illest Soap Around.
Yeah.
I think we might have to rename our business that, actually.
I mean, name a soap after that. I don't know.
I don't know. Nowadays, you don't want to be known as the illest, but
no, absolutely not. It's just like, what's the color of that again? Well, this has been really cool, and thank you. This has been really chill. It's been good to learn more about your biz. So shamelessly plug what you got. Where's your where can he find you on social? Where can he order some soap to wash their grubby fingers and maybe get some beard stuff too? Where can he hit you guys up?
Yeah, we're doing our website is mountroyalsoaps.com, and we're doing delivery, in-person delivery in Baltimore. You can also ship anywhere in the country or in Baltimore. Or in-store pickup. You can come down and pick it up. No contact. On social, at Mount Royals, at MT Royal Soaps. And then we have a TikTok now. We're trying to be cool. Yeah, TikTok. I don't even know what that is.
So the kids,
it's MT Royal Soaps. We're trying to be hip.
Yeah, I've been there for a few of those soap pickups. Like I said, my girlfriend goes there. I was like, what are we doing here? What's happening? You wait in the car. I was like, what are we doing here?
It's very weird.
She just like, I got the soap. Let's leave. I was like, what is happening? So it's clandestine soap pickups. It's good though. So I want to thank you again for coming on, and I'll do my sign off, and that'll be that. So for Pat Ellis, I'm Rob Lee saying, wash your hands. It's all types of cool stuff in and around Baltimore. You just have to look for it.